Caitlin and welcome to my channel, CaitMakes, the channel where I make things. I am so excited about today's project. Today we are making a dress that I have been afraid to make for 2 years. So hope you enjoy. This is going to be the most intensive and most difficult thing that I have made so far, especially because I really want to do all the bells and whistles, all of the extra fanciful things that I can to make it as dreamy as possible. And yeah, I'm so excited to get into this project today, and I hope that you enjoy coming along with me on this much anticipated journey. The pattern I'm going to be using is the Rose Cafe Bustier dress. I am using the newer version of it. I know she has 2 versions. Make sure to link it below. I'm going to put some dreamy examples over here, some ones that have just been living rent-free in my mind. I feel like this shape is just the most beautiful dress ever. I've been wanting to make something like this. I just feel like they're so romantic and beautiful, and I can't wait to have one for myself. So excited to start working on this one. Let's get started. First, I want to show you the fabric that I'm going to be using today. It's so pretty. This fabric is all of my favorite colors, all of my favorite things. It has cute little bees on it, beautiful florals.
Florals for spring. Groundbreaking.
I love all the greenery throughout. It has butterflies and dragonflies sprinkled throughout. It's just so cute and unique. I'll make sure and link this below in case you love it as well. The thickness and weight is really like a tapestry. It's super heavyweight, really substantial. I'm noticing that I think it's going to fray pretty easily as I'm working with it. When I saw this, it just really reminded me of like an Oscar de la Renta kind of fabric. I think this is going to be so beautiful and make it such a like heirloom kind of piece. Now, because I want this to be super well finished and because I noticed that fabric frays super easily, I have finally decided to set up my serger. If you've been here for a while, you know that I've been saying I would do this for a long time.
It's been 84 years.
This is the Singer Making the Cut version. I believe you can find it on Amazon, and it's the S0230. Isn't she beautiful? I got this for Christmas for my mom, and I have been afraid to set it up since December. It is now March. I finally set it up. It wasn't that bad, but it was a task. It was a task for sure, but I'm very excited that now I can finally start serging my pieces. Okay, so I've done a few things off camera. I have gone ahead and cut out all of my pieces. This took absolutely forever because I was wanting to be really particular about like which flowers were used where, and then also which direction they were facing. I still haven't fully decided what kind of skirt I'm putting on this. I don't think I'm going to go with the one that's from the pattern that's more of a like straight skirt. I just like having flowier skirts. I'll probably do a gathered one of some kind. We shall see. You will find out probably at the same time that I do. This is a thrifted satin sheet that I've used once before as lining. I had a ton of it left. I was thinking about using cotton because it's a little more breathable and this fabric's already heavy, but I ended up going with the satin just because I think that it's going to feel really soft and nice and give it just a little bit of a fancier finish on the inside than if I had used cotton. So happy with this. I do have some foam cups that I got from Joann's because I don't have what they call a ham, I believe, which is like a tailoring tool that you use to iron curved edges, especially for bust pieces. So I had the idea that if I bought these that I could pretty much use this as the ham and then also use them in the dress, so it seemed pretty multi-purpose for me. And I did try it out with the lining pieces and it worked great, so I'll put maybe a video of me using that over here just so you can see. So if you don't have a ham as well but want to have a really nice curved finish, maybe this is something that you can do. Something else that I got from Joann's is this very pretty ivory lace. I just think it's so beautiful, and something that I was considering was putting like an extra detail on the upper part of the bust cups. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this so that I only have like 2 lines of the detail here, and I'm going to see how it does with being gathered. If it responds well, I think that this could be a really pretty girly detail to put at the top. I really want this dress to just be like as romantic and fanciful as possible, and I think that this would be really pretty. I think this is so precious looking. I absolutely love it. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna go with this. I think this gives it such a like romantic, dreamy, girly look. Ooh, it's so cute. So I'm going to go ahead and put together all the bust pieces and pretty much the bodice now. I'm just going to start sewing now that I know what I'm going to do with the top of it. So I'm very excited about that. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so if you do make this one yourself, my recommendation already is to make sure you're keeping all the pattern pieces close to you because they look really similar, but they are opposites. So it's just really important to know which one is actually the one that goes towards the center and which one goes towards the outside. I've already been referencing this a lot. So make sure and keep the pattern pieces close to you. It will be very helpful. I'm going to go ahead and sew together the bottom of this first bust cup. Yay. First one put together, and I do want to try my serger on these seams. Okay, I don't think these are supposed to be out like this, so I think I was a little too far away, but I'm probably going to leave that one, and I'll just do better on the second one. Okay, second attempt was better, so I just need to make sure that I push the fabric further to the right than I think I need to. I already didn't really do it at the beginning of it. I mean, there we go. It won't fray at least. Did just go ahead and serge all along the edges here because I think that makes a lot more sense to do it before I sew it together. I was just nervous that I was going to mess it up with this, like mess up the very careful sizing of it. So I just made sure that I lined up a little like razor part to the very, very edge so that it's barely cutting, you know, anything off. It's just really this like extra fuzz that's on the end. I think that's going to help a lot because yeah, this fabric really just comes apart like crazy. I've just gone on a complete spree. I just did all the bodice pieces. I actually still have 2 left, but I've just been serging all the edges. Now that I have the hang of it, this is such an addicting little process. It's so satisfying just to have everything finished so well, especially with a fabric like this that like the way it was fraying was just stressing me out. I felt like I needed to hurry so much to make sure that it just didn't like fall apart before I had the chance to sew it. So I'm officially best friends with this serger. Took me a second, but I get it now. I like it. Okay, gonna finish these last 2 pieces. Next up, I'm going to do the top stitching along both of these seam lines. Okay, so now that I have 2 bust cups with the top stitching, I just added the lining bit to the top of this here, and now I am going to understitch the top to make sure that this lining doesn't slip up or ever show from the front of the dress. So I'm going to do that with this excess towards the lining, and then I'm going to sew as close as possible to this seam here. I want to go ahead and add the lace that I showed you earlier to the top. I think this is going to be the perfect time. This way I can sew it so that it's not attached to the lining at all, but that I still know exactly where the real end of this top is going to be. So next up, cute little lace. All right, the cups are done and I am in love with them. I think that they're so cute. Now I'm going to start working on putting the bodice together. Look at this fabric though, guys. Oh my gosh, isn't it so beautiful? I can't wait to wear it. Hello it is a new day. I kind of left you hanging. So just picking up where I left off from last time, I had just finished sewing together the bodice, which looks great. Then I think what I didn't show, but that I did a little bit later, was I realized that I had forgotten to put in the straps before I sewed this top bit together. So I did have to unpick about an inch right here and slip this through. The plan with this strap is actually to do the same thing I did here and add more of this ribbon and have this be like a fluffy, lacy strap instead of just the ribbon. That will be being added eventually. I really want to get these cups attached. So the next thing that I have to do is I have these pinned already, but I'm just going to need to attach the lining to the outer. I am following the Rose Cafe Bustier updated tutorial on her YouTube channel. I'll make sure and link that one, so I'm really just going step by step, which is also why I'm trying not to give you too many details, because you can absolutely just follow her tutorial. I more want to focus on like what I'm doing differently or any like fun design elements. And the next thing I'm going to do is I have underwire, which from what I have researched makes a really big difference in this pattern, especially for the underwire. What I didn't realize is that you're supposed to have underwire channeling. So I don't have that, but luckily I have some extra double fold bias tape. So I'm going to make my own underwire channeling. So if you find yourself in a similar predicament, you can either use bias binding or make bias binding. It's a really easy thing to do. So luckily it's in this like perfect cream color that matches everything else. So I'm really happy that that's still gonna look really pretty on the inside. I'm going to just sew a seam all along the open edge here and close this off, and then this will work perfectly as the underwire casing. So that is also on the to-do list. And then finally we'll have the bodice mostly put together. I really need it to get to like this point to be able to tell if I think it needs any more structure. I really wanted to try to go with comfort because I'm wanting to wear this a lot. So as of right now, I have not put interfacing on the bodice bit. I did interface the cups like I showed because I think those really need the structure. But I do think that it will just be more comfortable without interfacing on this. So I'm going to try to put this all together and kind of place it on myself and see if I feel like it needs that extra structure or not. And I have seen multiple people and her tutorials do it with and without interfacing on the bodice. So very torn about which way will be best. But yeah, let's go ahead and get back into sewing and get into the second day of this project. I will be highly optimistic and say that maybe it'll be the last day, but I think this might be a long one, mostly because I'm having so much fun. So far, I really, really enjoy making this. So yeah, let's get into it. So I'm going to turn this bias binding into underwire channeling. All right, and next up is sewing the lining to the bust cups. In her video, she did say that there would most likely be extra down at the bottom. That is what I found. I think that there's still plenty of room here. I really made sure to like push this down because, you know, these seams kind of push it up. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't pulling it too tight. So there's still plenty of room in here for this to be super flat against the outer fabric. Yeah, I think this should be perfect. All right, so before I can attach those bust pieces, I need to put together my bodice lining. With this lining fabric especially, I have noticed that kind of gather itself. I know with slippery fabric, you can always put thin paper or something underneath it. Let me know if there are any other tips I should know about serging like slippery fabrics like this, since I am very new to the serging game. This is everywhere. Oh my gosh. I don't love how much of a mess the serger is. I am enjoying the result of using it, but oh my gosh, it's just this stuff is everywhere. Okay. They are all serged, and now I'm going to start sewing them all together after I clean this mess up. Yikes. This is dumb. now I'm going to start sewing the bodice lining together. Now the bodice lining is all done. I have it pinned to the outer fabric, right sides together, and I'm going to sew all along the top here. I think going slow is definitely the only way for the underbust portions. Okay, now I'm going to go press this so that it looks nice and that the lining is all, you know, pushed down as far as possible before I understitch it. All right, now attaching the first cup to the bodice. Took me quite a while to pin this on there. These fabrics are really thick. It was definitely really hard to pin this all together. Fingers crossed that this goes well. This is a very important step. I'm scared. Okay, well, I'm going to sew this together. Wish me luck. I hope that that just worked. I think we're good. I'm a little bit nervous about how narrow this middle part seems. I feel like that's supposed to be wider. Not really sure how that happened. Day 3 of this project. I am just chipping away at this with as much time as I have to spare. So don't mind my mini hair and outfit changes throughout this video. But I did a little bit more work on this. These bust cups I have just been so afraid are not going to turn out well. I'll go ahead and show you what I did on this first one to make it turn out well. Doesn't it look so pretty on the inside? I actually did find some white bias tape to use as the channel as well, which looks so much better with the white lining instead of the like off-white that I was going to use. So happy about that also. One other thing to notice before I keep going is somehow in my construction there is almost no space between these two cups. In the example one, there's probably like 1.5 inches or 2 inches. Like there's really a space here, and I don't know if it's just because of the larger like bust cup size that I'm doing, or if maybe I missed something. Maybe I wasn't supposed to do the same seam allowance for up there as I did throughout. Do what I didn't and maybe double check if the seam allowance is supposed to change up here. I did just pin the cup to the bodice fabric. I made sure to start at the center and make sure that these lines are connected, and then I did the 2 outside points to make sure those were right, and then kind of like you would with an armhole, you just want to kind of ease the rest of it and pin as you go. The more pins the better on these cups for sure. This is all very delicate placement. Okay, so now that that's done, this is what I'm considering the most important part for my fabric especially. This outer fabric is super thick. Like I mentioned at the beginning, it's like a tapestry kind of fabric. So there is a ton of bulk under here. So when I reached that point doing the first cup, I kind of panicked because I realized I couldn't just sew this down and have all of that fabric hidden away, and then also it just felt really, really thick. So I was a little bit afraid to cut through all of this, but it made such a huge difference. If I make this again, especially with a thick fabric, I would not bother with serging the bust cup portions because I'm cutting literally all of that stuff off. And it's just kind of adding to the bulk. Definitely wouldn't do that next time. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and cut all of that off. Then, like on the other side, I should be able to just lay this bias tape down and sew all along the edge to create that nice top stitching look, and then also, you know, finish off the channel for the underwire. Make sure that you clip all underneath the bust cup area. That also helped a ton. It was super tight and really flattened out the cups before I did that. So make sure you do that first, and make sure you're cutting as close to that seam as possible, especially like right now I'm going to trim off all the excess, but there's still going to be a little bit of those clips left under there just to help give it some ease, help it to open up at the bottom and not be so tight, and therefore flatten the cups of your bust. This is also an extremely messy process. I'm going to have to do a second round of vacuuming my desk for this project. Definitely one of my messier makes. Now you can see that once I lay this over flat, it will totally cover all those loose edges. It will enclose them, so there's not going to be any fraying or any threads that are going to show. And yeah, it's just going to finish it off super, super nicely. Both of the cups are done. As of right now, these are kind of loose just because otherwise the top stitching would cross over each other. So I'm going to leave it for now. I'm thinking I'll probably hand sew it at the end to keep it from showing through at the front. But yeah, cups are looking great. It's coming along really, really nicely. I hadn't put on the last 2 panels at the bottom quite yet because I hadn't decided how I wanted to close it. I've been wrestling with the idea of having this as 2 separate pieces, kind of like if you've seen this one that I made. I very often end up splitting my dresses into 2 because it's just far too tempting. But I am resisting and I'm going to keep this as a dress. I do want to have a corset type back. And what I have decided to do is what you can see here between the last 2 panels. I put some ribbon that are going to be loops for more ribbon. For my birthday dress, if you've seen that video, if not, I'll try to link it, check it out. I did the same thing, but I finished off the edge so that the 2 panels weren't connected, but they could just kind of scrunch together. And for this one, I have decided I'm going to try a different route. It definitely doesn't look bad that way, but does require a little bit of extra finagling in order for the upper bits to not be attached and then to still have like a zipper on the skirt portion. So this time I am going to do the zipper as you would for any other dress, and it's going to connect all the way from the top to the bottom. And then I'm just going to have this cinching aspect here to get, you know, a little extra tightening and just like a pretty back detail, but it's not going to be really what's holding this up. It's still going to be the zipper. So that's what I've decided to do the back. I did go ahead and do this side. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but I'll go ahead and show you on this other side here what I did. So I'm just going to go ahead and pin these right sides together, and I'm going to be putting my ribbon, which I've cut 5 of. I feel like every time I do a lace up, 5 always works well. So I've done this here, and I'm just going to be putting the raw edges towards the raw edges. And then to make sure that they're as even as possible, I'm going to be lining up the end of the ribbon with the end of the raw edge here. And yeah, I'll just go ahead and pin and do that all the way down. I always do the top and then the bottom, and then I go directly in the middle, and then I fill in the space in between here. I feel like that's the easiest way to make sure that they are evenly distributed, and you can pretty much just eyeball it. You don't have to do a lot of crazy measuring or anything, which is how I prefer to do things.
Math is hard.
Then just to keep the ribbon ends from unraveling or anything, I trim them down a little bit, and then I'm going to sew the seam allowance together and then iron the whole thing over to make sure that these ribbons get pushed as much as possible towards the back, which is what I did on the other side, and I think worked really well. Okay, another day of this project. I think we're on day 4 at this point. I'm not even sure. It's all a blur. I have been moving at a glacial pace, but it is going to be worth it. It's going to be worth all this time. So the top is pretty much finished here. I did end up putting the same lace onto the straps, which I think is going to be so cute. It gives it such a cute girly touch. What I didn't show you last time was deciding what I wanted to do with the skirt. So the pattern itself comes with a straight fitted kind of skirt. That just isn't my favorite. I love flowy skirts. I love to be comfortable. I especially feel like if your top is tight, then the bottom needs to be comfortable. Like 2 sets of uncomfortable for me just does not fly. So basically I just used some calculations that I've sort of used before. My waist is 24 inches, so I multiplied that by 3 to get the width of the fabric that I wanted to use. The ×3 method is one that I've used before. It's what I use for the one I'm wearing. Just always seems to work for me. So going with that, and then from there gives me 72 inches. So then I did that same measurement for the second tier because I also want that second tier to be super gathered. So I did 72 times 3, which got me 216 inches. So the bottom tier is going to be 216 inches wide, which is very long. And then for the length of both of these, I just figured out, you know, where I wanted them to hit. So the first one I measured down to where like the tips of my fingers reached on the side of my leg, and that was about 18 inches. So top panel is 72 inches wide and then 18 inches long. And then for the second one, I measured from where my fingertips hit down to where I wanted the length to be, which is kind of T-length, somewhere around there, like around my calf, and that was about 15 inches. So that second tier is 216 inches wide by 15 inches long. So if you want to create a similar skirt, if you end up liking the way this one looks, that's how I did it. Super simple, really, but this kind of tiered skirt, and especially if you want it to have a substantial amount of gathering, which I always think looks best, it takes a lot of fabric. If you end up wanting to make a dress like mine, I had exactly 3 yards of fabric to work with. I'm 5'4". I'm typically a dress size, you know, 0 to 2 US. So if you're a similar size, that's what I'm using. That's how much fabric this is taking. So just some background knowledge before I start putting this skirt together. The thing that's going to take a minute with this skirt is that I didn't have 216 inches of width to work with, especially since I'm using this floral fabric where I have to make sure that the flowers are facing a certain way. So I basically did a bunch of different panels that are going to add up to 216 inches. And then for the first tier, I actually made sure to cut it so that I did 72 inches divided by 2. This way I will make sure that I'll have 2 side seams and put in side seam pockets, which I love. I love for my dresses to have pockets. And the easiest way to put those in and the most subtle way to put pockets in is to have side seams. So I did cut my fabric with that in mind as well. It's going to be serging every edge of all these different panels and then connecting them together. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, the 882. I'm going to be sewing these on right now, and then we're going to be finishing up the skirt. Pretty invisible. Disappears right into that seam. To gather this up, I am going to be doing 2 basting stitches across the top of all of this. I did something silly. I forgot that I need the back panel of this to have a slit down the center because I'm going to be doing a zipper. So I need to ungather whichever of these I would like to be the back panel. And then I'm going to cut it in half, and then I'll regather each of those halves. So I should have had basically 3 sections instead of 2 here. That's what happens when I spread things out over multiple days. Okay, next up I have a million of these panels that I am going to connect. Just for reference, I know I gave you the measurement before, but this is like a clown piece of fabric. I'm still going. Gathered skirts. I love them and I hate them. It is officially spring, so I was getting way too warm in that turtleneck I had on. Honestly, I think I'm still too warm in this, but this was the closest thing to me, so don't mind my wardrobe change here. But 100 years later, all these pieces are connected and gathered, and then I've just pinned it all to that top skirt piece. That is the part that I have been dreading the most, so I'm glad that it's done. The gathered tier is attached, and I'm so glad. I think it's going to look really good. So I am going to go ahead and do the hem of the skirt now. Moment I wish I had a rolled hem foot. I'm going to go through the whole skirt and just sew down one layer like this, and then I'll go back through the whole thing sewing again to make it a proper rolled hem. So wish me luck. Here I go on another slow process. Oh, so much fabric, but the reward is that it looks really pretty and it's really fun to wear. So here we go.
One eternity later.
All right, my friends, this is the last day of this project. No matter what, I am finishing it today, and it is a beautiful day outside, so I'm actually hoping that maybe I could do some final shots of the dress outside. I am very excited to finally finish up this dress. I finished up the hem last night, I believe is where I left you. Now we just have to get these connected, get a zipper put in. This is the point when you would split it in half, just as like a quick reference. I am going to do a video where I show you how I usually split my dresses in half. I would, you know, finish off the bottom of this top and do, you know, one closure for the top, usually add a waistband to the skirt and then do a zipper in the back, and then you would have two separate pieces. But I am going to keep this as one solid dress. I think it's going to be really pretty like that. Next thing I need to do is cut out a skirt for the lining fabric. I am actually going to be doing a completely different skirt for the lining than I did for this. All right, lining skirt is completed. I actually use the Milkmaid dress skirt pattern for this because I know that one fits me really well. I have it on hand. I think that it'll work really well with the volume of this skirt without having to have a gathered waist, just because I want to avoid having more bulk than necessary. Also, this kind of skirt takes a lot less fabric than doing a gathered skirt, so I think that this will be perfect. Now I am going to attach the lining skirt to the lining bodice fabric. Yay, starting to look like a dress. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the outer skirt. We are now to the zipper stage. I did think that I had a longer zipper. This is the 6 to 9 inch zipper, and tested it quickly just like by pinning it, and I think it's going to be just long enough for me to use it and it still work for this project. I am going to have to slip this on over my head in order to wear it, but you know what, I just can't be bothered to drive the almost 2 hours it is to my nearest Joann's, and I want this done today. So I'm going to sew this to the outer fabric first, and then I'll be closing it in with the lining fabric like so. Very excited. We're getting so close here. Oh, I want to ask you before I even have it finished, but I'm going back and forth on whether or not this would be appropriate to wear to a wedding, like as a guest. My thought was yes, because it's just a floral fabric. But I don't know, as I've spent many hours looking at it, I'm wondering if it matters that it has like a, you know, off-white background, if that makes it like not acceptable. I feel like if it's a floral, it's okay, right? But put your comments down below if you feel like this is not a fabric that you should wear to a wedding. Okay, popping on super quick to let you know that the dress is finished. It did get finished this day. However, it is too dark now to film, and I really want to give this one its proper due because it has taken me forever. So I am going to go out to the spring weather tomorrow and film a nice outdoor reveal for you. I hope that you love the result. Can't wait to show you. Yay.